The Spirit of the Lord is on me. She has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives, and release from darkness for the prisoners. For I, the Lord, love justice. Isaiah 61:1-8. For the last 2 days, I have been accused of being kind from two people I admire greatly. The first accusation of kindness came from Nobel Peace Prize laureate Marie McGuire just because I disseminated her words of wisdom to her Nobel peers, President Obama and Jimmy Carter, and every news editor's email address in my possession. You can read Marie's words, Choose Peace, End the Siege of Gaza, and Occupation of Palestine, which I published at wearewideawake.org on June 22 as an update lead-in to my June 21 article, Israel's Investigation and Intelligence Flaws from the Mavi Marmara to Berlin. I emailed Marie back that I'm not being kind. I have been driven by a sense of calling and a sense of mission ever since my first of 7 trips to Israel, Palestine, to do something to end the misery in Gaza, Palestine, and to help free Mordecai Vanunu. The very next day, Gilad Atzmon, the world-renowned jazz musician, novelist, essayist, political and social commentator, also accused me of being kind, and I began to wonder if maybe they were right, even though I have a flaming Irish temper that erupts over hypocrisy and willful, arrogant ignorance. Before that day we call 9/11, I was your typical misinformed, uninformed, comfortably numb American. The scales fell from my eyes during my first trip to Israel, Palestine in 2005, and I knew I had to take a side. After meeting Mordecai Vanunu, I knew I also had to do something more than just finish my first book, Keep Hope Alive, that I was in the midst of writing. 3 weeks after I returned to America, I established wearewideawake.org, and over 3 million visitors have checked it out, and I have just finished my 3rd book, Beyond Nuclear, some of my experiences of Mordecai Vanunu and the Holy Land, 2005-2010, and I am in process of seeking a publisher with the integrity to be politically incorrect with me and tell the truth. One of my major role models is Dorothy Day, the 20th century Christian anarchist who founded the Catholic Worker newspaper, which persists today. Dorothy wrote in her autobiography, The Long Loneliness, I quote, "Writing a book is hard because you are giving yourself away. But if you love, you want to give yourself. You write as you are impelled to write, about man and his problems, his relationship to God and his fellow beings. You write about yourself because in the long run, all of man's problems are the same, his sustenance and love. People have a great need to reverence, to worship, to adore. It is a psychological necessity of human nature that must be taken into account. We don't like to admit how people fail us. Even those most loved show their frailty and their weaknesses, and no matter how we may only wish to see the best in others, their strengths rather than their weaknesses, we are all too conscious of our own failings, and we recognize them in others. The Catholic Worker, as the name implied, was directed to the worker, but we use the word in its broadest sense, meaning those who worked with brain, those who did physical, mental, or spiritual work. But we thought primarily of the poor, the dispossessed, the exploited. End of Dorothy. In 2005, during my interviews with Vanunu, he told me how he endured during those first 18 years in jail, most all in solitary, for telling the world the truth, that Israel had developed up to 200 nuclear warheads by 1985. Vanunu said, "The Shin Bet, like the FBI and the Mossad, like your CIA, they were watching me. They tortured me by keeping a light on in my cell constantly for 2 years. They told me it was because they were afraid I would commit suicide, and the oppressive camera was for my safety. They recruited the guards and other prisoners to irritate me. They would deprive me of sleep by making loud noises near my cell all night long. I chose to read them 1 Corinthians 13 instead, which explains what love is. I quote, 'Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered, and it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. Love never fails.'" Another brother who knows love is a verb is Gilad Atzmon, and he will be performing and educating the crowd at the Billsboro Winery in Geneva, New York on Wednesday, June 30th, 2010, at a fundraiser for the Deir Yassin Remembered Scholarship Program. Learn more at wearewideawake.org, June 24, 2010, Deir Yassin, Gilad Atzmon, and Jazz as Jihad, and at the Greater Awakening link and the Vanunu SAGA 2005-2010 at wearewideawake.org. Power to the peaceful.